All right. Welcome, community of love, wherever you are in this amazing planet. In this community, we emphasize the importance of addressing any conflict with love and forgiveness. These two marvelous ingredients have the power to dissolve and resolve any conflict. So, this program is about the spiritual, love, family, self, and money relationships. This is your host, Lilia Ackerman, known as the Raw Truth Digger, because I'm a stronger believer that in order to reconnect, rebuild, and revive your relationships, you must remove your inner conflicts to operate from the true self and get the right mindset to live your extraordinary life. I am a certified transformational wellness master coach and a self-publisher. You can grab a copy of my books, From Gloom to Bloom and De la Penumbra a la Aurora, English and Spanish, on the link below this video. So today, our amazing guest is Janessa Finley Ford, an empowerment coach with more than 20 years of experience on her field. So today we're talking about how the temptations in the desert guide us through life seasons of winter and adversity. So what an honor to have you with us today. And the audience would like to know about a little bit about you, Janessa. So tell us, where did you born?
I was born in Nebraska, in the middle of the Midwest. It's a flyover state, and I lovingly like to tell people it is the land of cows and corn, which is exactly where I was born and raised on a farm in a very rural area. I went to country school for a couple years, which is pretty unheard of for people in my generation. And it was such a beautiful experience. And then eventually that country school closed after, I'd only been there 2 years. And I transitioned to the public school system in a town of about 400 people. There were 20 kids in my graduating class. From there, graduated, went to college, studied criminal justice and psychology, and then made my way into the prison systems, the probation system, drug court, and worked for the Department of Homeland Security before transitioning into holistic healing, alternative health, and energy psychology, where now I am supporting people's personal development and change because they want it versus it being mandated by the court. So it's a very like people think that it's such a huge transition or change in life career, but it's really not. Like it's just a little tweak because of the rehabilitation services I was involved in the whole time that I was working within probation and drug court and those systems.
Wow, what an experience. I was a volunteer in the prison chino for women. And I can imagine, I was doing coaching without knowing that I was coaching. And
Hmm.
it was 10 years that I earned a lot of experience. But from your side, you have to be you were in between court and the prisoners. You were like, what was exactly?
Yeah, when I worked in the prison, I was working as a caseworker.
Okay.
And so I had direct contact with the inmates or offenders, every day as part of my, daily duties. And then I was also on an emergency response team. So we would get called in if there were ever any riot or uprising situations. And so I trained with that team. I also taught self-defense while I was within the prison system. And just overall, it was absolutely, honestly mind-blowing to think of how much responsibility I had at such a young age and place in my career when I reflect back from where I am now. I think there is something to be said for, what you don't know. Because now that I know so much more, I'm like, wow, what was I doing? And what were they doing putting me in those positions? But um I did very well in those positions and I didn't know what I know now. So I also went into it pretty fearless and, just did the best that I could in my time that I was there. And it was all very fulfilling and led to the next, as life does, led to the next stair step along the journey.
Well, yeah, I met a few people that they were inside. I mean, I was in the outsider, but in the inside, like you. But they ain't like a very tough person and very like women change a lot, like a very manly attitude. But I see in you like that didn't change you.
Oh, I have
Your
grown so
attitude, your
much.
smile, your I mean
Yeah.
energy is so beautiful. So what do you how do you manage not to be swallowed by that hard work?
I think I was to some extent. You know, they really train you into not responding to trauma so that you can stay as objective as possible when things are
Mm.
happening in the world around you that would be, you know, traumatic to the average person. They teach you not to trust, not to divulge personal information, to really guard and protect yourself. Like you're saying, much more masculine traits to exude. So I definitely was very different then than I am now. I've shed a lot of that. And after leaving working within those systems, it's then that I was really able to realize how protected I had been with myself, with my information, with connecting with other people, and really being able to deepen my relationships with people. And hindsight's always such a gift because I can now see why divorce rates are so high within the law enforcement field, having been on both sides. Um, and so, yeah, you're really hitting the nail on the head about what you see within the systems, and it's really real. And I think part of it is important so that you do remain safe in the work that you're doing. However, I do think that if we're mindful enough, which I wasn't at that young age, but if we're mindful enough to be able to step into that role for work and step out of it with your family, your relationships are going to be much more harmonious.
Wow, that is so amazing. Now, what it is like okay, let's move a little bit about what you're doing today. Well, well, let me ask you first. What was you have a main reason to get out of the what you were doing for what you're doing now?
Well, a lot of it's my personal journey. I had chronic bronchitis. I had some trauma I experienced as a child. I repressed those memories until a few decades later. And so it was really through my physical lack of health, even though I was eating my chicken and vegetables, as I like to say, and going to the gym, and I thought I was doing all the things that made me healthy. I had stuffed so many emotions and so many traumatic experiences. Like I said, having repressed emotions, not even knowing what those things were, and carried them with me for so long, it was creating this illness in my body. And I wasn't having success with the typical treatment. I would go to the doctor and get, I mean, at in my young 20s, I was often taking 5 prescription medications, going to the doctor twice, missing at least 1, if not 2 weeks of work every time I would get bronchitis. I would get bronchitis 2 to 3 times a year, and I had become intolerant for antibiotics. So there was lots of evidence
Wow.
and proof that the way that this Western medicine approach wasn't getting to the root of why is this a cold for someone else and I'm around someone with a cold and it becomes bronchitis for me. And so I started seeking out some alternative forms of healing at my mom's prompting, which I think really was more of my grandma's prompting, but I am so appreciative to both of them for that because I started to slowly reclaim my health. And then, as all things tie together, of course, while I was working in drug court, there was someone, a participant within the drug court, who was one of the most challenging people I had experienced supervising simply because they weren't invested in sharing information. And you have to create reports to share with the court, with the judge, with the treatment staff. And um, you know, it wasn't like outright disrespect, but it's so hard to tell what someone is doing and if they're adhering to what the court's asking of them when they just really don't want to talk to you or answer your questions. And
Wow.
their treatment provider was experiencing the same thing. So she had referred him to go to an energy psychologist. And I saw such huge shifts in this individual in such a short amount of time. I had no idea or understanding of what was happening in those sessions or like what energy psychology was. I just saw the result and I had that inner calling within me that I knew I needed it because of my, emotional well-being, my physical health, and so I gifted myself my first session for my 30th birthday. And that really set me on this course that through my own personal journey, my personal healing, um, having it suggested that I go to a training to use for my own personal path and healing with myself led to people wanting me to do sessions with them before I ever went to the training and then giving me feedback that it was life changing for them and I wasn't even trained in it yet. And this is the
Wow.
way life goes when we follow our path, right? It just lays itself out before us. And so from there, I, obviously went on to get certified and start my business and being able to serve others with these gifts and talents and modalities that have really allowed me to reclaim my life and my empowerment as a person and a human to live a happy, fulfilling life versus where I was before I started my healing journey of really just being bankrupt emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. Didn't know how I would make it to retirement, working those jobs, just burnt out and exhausted. And my life is nothing like it was then. And I really, really do credit that alternative healing that led to a different lifestyle entirely of putting myself first. And it's just been really beautiful.
That is amazing. Is I think you have the experience of working with people. You see all these inmates, and then after it was you working in you. So you have the two experiences, very powerful. And now you are serving others in the same way you serve yourself. And I think that's a great and amazing beginning because when you work in yourself and you are consistent and you are successful on what you did, um, can can give you a different kind of experience because everything was in you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had
When
the
you're,
answers.
yeah. And being able to be a demonstration of what you're doing is totally different than telling people what they should do while you're doing something, you know, contrary or
Yes,
different. But to be that living demonstration is really powerful to go first and lead the way for other people is it's really fulfilling, but it's also very sacred.
that is beautiful. Um, what is people talk about limiting beliefs, and like when my life it was a chaos, I didn't even say, "Oh, I have a limiting beliefs," because we don't speak like that. But what is something that you discover in your healing journey that was holding you to where you wanted to be?
Hmm, that's a great question. Um, as I search for something particular to pop up, I will just in general say that every time it's come back to me, every time it's been my perception, or like you mentioned, limiting beliefs. Um, I think one of the biggest paradigm thinking shifts for me is when I stopped looking at life as either or and really started challenging myself to look at and both. And so I would approach situations with, a limited amount of resources, whether that's money or energy or time or whatever it is. And I would come to that telling myself that I needed to pick either one or the other because there's a limit here of resources or time or money or whatever. But when I started to expand and come to situations and decisions looking at and both, well, I want this and I want that. Or I want this and my husband wants the exact opposite. Now, how are we going to make two different opposing things happen? Because I don't believe in sacrifice in relationships. It really, really shifted and changed so many other things of possibility and expanding my ability to receive that, I can have what I want and he can have what he wants in that example that I gave without either one of us have limitations on us or, like I mentioned, the sacrifice. And that just allows life to grow and expand and let more and more and more in. And it's just simply based on that lens and perception that you're using of, well, I can either have what I want or he can have what he wants. Well, no, there's a way for everything. How can I have what I want and he gets what he wants too? And that's just one little small example, but I feel like either or and both, that paradigm, that decision making, viewing situations, working through business decisions. I mean, time and again, it comes up each and every day. And it's just having that awareness to look at critical thinking. I mean, if we're being honest, the biggest difference between those two perspectives is okay, I make a choice. I either have this or I have that. It's just a choice. If you come at the mindset of and both, there's some critical thinking that's going to have to go into that to solve how can you have both? It's not just making a choice. There's a whole
Correct.
different process involved in that. And so investing in that process and allowing yourself to go into that critical thinking and to see what you're not yet seeing, it takes a little more energy, takes a little more audacity, but it's always worth it. So I think that is probably one of the biggest things that once I shifted allowed me to experience so much, and I'm just going to say more as a general term, but so much more from life in every element of my life.
You know what? You call it a small thing, but you know what is what you just mentioned is part of the well-being. You care about the well-being of the loved one, and you mentioned your husband. You know, I see so many couples get divorced, apart, disconnected because they look into what I want. But you were saying what I want, what he wants. Let's find out a way that we can both can have what we want without sacrificing, and that is very powerful, very powerful. Of course it's going to be more, of course life is going to bring um more than that you want, because the point of attitude, not thinking just about you, not fighting into spending hours into why this is supposed to be this way and why it's supposed to be that way, but immediately, which all of this is calling to disconnection. But what you're saying is, what can he and what can I and why not? Is open. Is an open room for more opportunities, and the light comes. So thank you so much for saying that. This is amazing. And I'm glad that this is, you mentioned about relationships, because this is my topic forever and ever.
Absolutely.
And then, well, the next question is, how did you overcome them? But then you answer that without me asking. You already mentioned what personal changes did you make? I mean, which is, again, back into uh, when you're thinking about the well-being of others, is is one of the main keys of commitment. So you nail into different areas just by taking that approach.
Yeah, relationships, real quick, I'm just going to add in here that they work so well when we come to a relationship postured to pour into it. But so often we come to a relationship postured to take from it because we're not filling ourselves. Because, like you mentioned, the disconnection, we're not connecting with ourselves through God, source, creator, and feeling whole and feeling enough and feeling adequate. And so then we show up in this posture in our relationship where we're there to receive. So that person can validate us. They can make us feel whole. They can make us feel complete. They can make us feel worthy. And it's when we're taking from the relationship in that way, which is often unconscious and not something that's very aware in a lot of ways that we do that, it tends to empty the energy from the relationship. And the other thing that we get caught up in is pouring from an empty cup and maybe, just maybe, not being actually really honest with ourselves. This is something that I actually found myself doing earlier this year. And I like to think I'm a really aware woman, but I was filling my cup as much as I could every morning or every day with my meditation and my self-care practices. But because of the last couple years and the crisis that my family lived through, it really had drained my cup. And so every day I would be able to fill my cup a little bit, and then I was pouring from that cup. And by the end of the day, I had an empty cup every day. And I thought I was taking care of myself. I thought I was doing the things I needed to do for me. I thought I was coming to the relationship to give, but I didn't have nearly as much to give. And so by the end of the day, often I was looking to receive because my cup was empty. And I realized that, I just wasn't having an honest assessment with myself of the condition of my cup. And so I started looking at how could I really fill my cup so that I'm pouring from overflow. And so I'm filled. I have enough to give into the relationship without emptying my tank.
Yeah.
And this is something so common with individuals that I work with, or that I see so often with friends and family, is that we think that we're pouring that which we have when we're actually really depleted. And we're just not seeing that for ourselves because we've been through whatever we've been through, whether it's death, loss, maybe losing a job within a relationship or a marriage, or like whatever hardships people are out there dealing with. And then we take a little bit different posture through that time because it requires something different from us. And then when that's over, we kind of build those new habits according to that situation, and our nervous system acclimates to that stress and that being a way of life. And it takes some emotional awareness and some tools to really bring our nervous system back into that place of safety and to allow our cup to really fill so we can pour from overflow. And that wasn't a short little, I meant for it to be a short little aside, and it got a little lengthy, but it's so prominent in relationships that I see. So in the focus of relationships, I think that serves people really wearing from an overflowing cup. And if not, looking at, what is it that I have been saying I should do, and turning that into what do I want to do, and following the what do I want to do so that you are filling your cup and filling your cup until it overflows.
Yeah, I mean that's another important key because well, with my experience is working with my clients, like we tend to blame others for what the way we feel. Of course, you're gonna be an empty cup because you never are gonna take that responsibility the way you did it. I think um, you are very smart by every time. I mean, I notice through this conversation, very powerful conversation. Thank you very much. That the first thing that you do is, what can I do? What can I say? What can I? Immediately when we turn those fingers in I, we take the responsibility from other people that in the first place, they don't have nothing to do with the way we feel. So I think this is a powerful lesson to everybody that when you ask yourself, a question again is open room for possibilities, open room for answers, for light to come in and to find. You become like I think I don't have my glasses here. I forgot. Oh no, I have these glasses here. I was like to wear them because it's like a really like I'm having a different glasses that you can see with different with different kind of eyes the same situation. So you are giving us a lot from insights and very powerful um, tips for relationships. So thank you. Um, what are your top core values?
Mm, I wasn't prepared for this
Oops.
question. Isn't this interesting? Because I do think they change along our way. My top core values definitely include, I should say, honesty, integrity. Um, I really love efficiency, but I have to be honest, it does have its place and space. Not everything can necessarily be efficient. Sometimes timing is really important to honor. Um, hmm. I also really, really value acknowledgement, seeing people, hearing people, being seen, being heard. And I suppose that goes back to connection at the root of all of it. Um, but really truly acknowledging people. And so I would say those are my core values currently. And I'm sure they'll continue to evolving and grow with me as I go on through life.
Absolutely. Um, so comparing from today, from yesterday, when to till today, the journey that you walk, the process from finding yourself vulnerable to finding yourself with lots of questions and walking towards for where you are today. How do you show up into the world? How do you show up for as a woman, as a yes, as a human being in this world?
Mm. In love, I just do my best to love unconditionally, myself, others, and to show up in that position wherever I show up, when I show up, just really accepting what is, what I experience in life, the day to day, each moment to moment, the events. And that's a continual process to grow in. I would love to say I have mastered it, check that off the list, but it ebbs and flows. There are days I feel like I hit it out of the park, and there are other days that I am like pitching that 2-year-old fit, like, why is this happening? Why isn't what I want to happen happening faster? Um, but really, when I can show up in love and acceptance of people that I encounter, the circumstances that I'm walking through, life is just a minute by minute miracle. And you can see those miracles rather than rushing by them and thinking that it's just another mundane day in the life of Janessa, because there are these little miracles happening around us all the time, simply from, people that got put in our path that we meet to, the person that gifts you something or brings over a meal when you really need it the most and you didn't ask for it. There
Yes.
each day is just full of endless miracles.
And thank you for mentioning unconditional love. Thank you. It's very important to um, understanding about unconditional, because when you truly understand that, you don't expect anything because it's you that want to give it. So you don't
Mhm.
expect anything in return. So you don't wait, still you don't stay waiting for somebody to say not even thank you, because you're giving with
Mhm.
no condition
And
and you're
giving it to
free.
yourself, right? Like this was one of the aspects I feel like I was quicker to give unconditional love to other people, but pretty slow to give it to myself. I mean, if we look at unconditional love and that definition of loving without expecting any change, like just loving the state, all states, all forms. It was really challenging for me to get to a place where I could love all forms myself. I could love the part of me that's really impatient and wants things to hurry up, chop, chop. I could love the part of me that gets, when I am really activated, I can get pretty dramatic. And I used to really reject that part of myself and try to stifle her. And now she's pretty funny. Like I can get really dramatic and I can put on a show, but I also like interweave my humor into it. And so people who are bearing witness to my my emotional flair, they're laughing, and I'm laughing my way through the discomfort. And when you can truly unconditionally love yourself and not just talk about the concept of it, but truly embody it, there is a whole new level of life experience to be had there.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Because I think there is I mean if you don't have those moments, because sometimes when you are in the um desperate, or when you like you say, why is not happening what I'm looking for, it is a moment to do something, or to shift, or to create something, or like to use that energy and that moment to do something amazing, do something new, extraordinary. To also is a point of inspiration. And as I mean, I see you are a very resilient person. So resiliency, it helps you to, yes, we have moments, but we go back immediately into who we are.
Mhm.
And so those moments, yeah, I laugh about myself, that too, and I learned how to accept that part of me. And I just said, when I go into those moments, like, seriously, Leah? Seriously? Like, let me bring you down. But yeah, it is beautiful to appreciate all parts of us, those different components that we have, and it
Mhm.
has a reason for that bright moment. So thank you for showing those areas about you, and to help us to uh, to bring it to awareness that we need to accept those areas too. Thank you. And now, tell us everything about you do. What do you do what is to work with you when somebody comes? What is your ideal client? Tell us everything.
Yeah, I love working with highly driven women who, they know they want more out of life, but they feel like they're facing adversity or have been walking through adversity, and they know that they're meant for something more, something easier in life. So I use, like I mentioned, the energy psychology and mindset, but it's this holistic modality that we're clearing blocks, mental blocks, physical blocks, emotional blocks, spiritual blocks for people's success. And everyone's different. So it's highly tailored to each individual, tapping into their energy system and the innate intelligence. We have this innate intelligence that grew us from this little embryo in our mother's womb to walking, talking, magic making machines
Yeah,
on legs.
yeah.
And so we just tap back into that intelligence. And so it's a combination of coaching and it's a combination of healing. And I'll be honest, a lot of people who have, felt as though they've walked through adversity or currently in adversity, typically trauma. There's underlying trauma that we'll get into and heal. That's one of my favorite things to work with is trauma of any kind, complex trauma, simple trauma, and allowing people to move forward. Because I really feel like to explain trauma, it's like you start out and then you put on a shirt and then you put on a sweatshirt and then you put on a coat And trauma is like a 16-layer cake, I like to say, of different emotions that imprint
Yes.
in our brain and our nervous system all at the same time. And it keeps us looping in that same story because of the way it affects the brain. And the brain can't actually tell time. It doesn't know the past from current. And so when anything reminds us of that trauma, we are living it unconsciously as though it's really actually happening. And that is so often what is at the core of adversity for people is being in these active loops of trauma that they might not even remember if they, experience something similar to me with having the repressed memories. And you don't know why relationships are so hard. You don't know why you don't trust people, and you don't know why you developed an eating disorder that led to a divorce 1 year after getting married at a really young age. These were my areas of adversity that just kept compounding and growing and growing and growing. And I really wasn't able to unravel that until I could remember the memory of what had happened to me in my childhood. And since that, it's been such a pivotal point in my life to reclaim who I truly am at the core of my being. Like you had commented, you seem so much more vulnerable than what you would see in the prison. Yes, there was a lot of healing involved at that. I don't think I would be here if I hadn't remembered that repressed memory and gone down my path of trauma healing. And so being able to gift that forward to other people and guide and lead them through not only healing that, but then learning the tools that we have to deal and process with traumas or phobias, the things that happen in the world around us that we don't have any control over. So, for instance, where I live, we've had some really significant and severe tornadoes recently. A lot of people lost their homes and lost everything they had. And you see these, if you weren't affected by the storm, you still see the images all over. The average person, even watching the news is kind of a trauma cycle. It's
Yes.
just telling you all the horrible things in the world. And even just witnessing that stuff through the media can traumatize people or trigger a trauma that they've experienced earlier.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
so it's so important to have tools. And I know how much, you agree, believe, teach as it happens so that you're just not consistently like getting stuck with the next situation that is difficult that comes your way. Like is really mastering the art of being human. It's mastering your mindset and your perception. It's mastering your emotions. It's knowing that you don't have to believe everything your brain thinks. It's how to process through the emotions so they don't store in your body and then integrate into disease at a later date and time because you never process it. It's about your spiritual connection. It's about tuning into your intuition and letting your spirit guide you and listening to your heart. And that is what just lights me up to serve and work with individuals. So when they walk away from our work, they know that like they got it. They have a master's degree in figuring themselves out and know that whatever life brings their way, they're going to figure that out too because they know their rhythms and they know what they need to do to keep themselves continuing to evolve and move forward. And so that's in a nutshell what my work encompasses with people.
That is incredible. That is very incredible because a long time ago I remember I was I was meditating about what is happening in the world. And the guy showed me that is like a puppy, when they have a splinter and they barely touch the ground and they say, ow, 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 very loud, and how painful it is, that teeny mini thing that is in there. And then he showed me that the world is achy, is achy. So when you start diving into why we have this achy world, and that's the answer, the everything that you just mentioned, the trauma. Uh, and then your job is very needed, is to help people with the kindness that you have, with experience that you have, to bring these people from a very hard memories that sometimes we block because it's very painful if we remember. And but to have somebody like you walking them with this, it's special. It's special when to do that kind of service.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
we really feel like we should always be moving forward in linear time, right? Progressing. We should be making more and more money, having more and more success, having more and more pleasurable experiences, but we are
yes,
just like the seasons of the year. We have our winters, and our winters tend to be the season that challenges us the most. And I would argue that our winter is the adversity that we walk through. And so, just in short, I I love to look at the temptations that Jesus faced in the desert as a roadmap for how to move through these seasons. I feel like what really triggered this is when you were talking about the world. I feel like a lot of what we're seeing in the world is a really large season of winter for the world at large. You know, we're in this pivotal time where things are shifting, and I think that we're being called to do that work that's happening underground or within the tree during winter. The tree isn't dead just because it doesn't have leaves. There's just different things that are happening within that
yeah,
tree that you can't see physically.
yes,
Um, so just quickly, the first temptation, turning the stone into bread when Jesus had fasted for so many days. I think that points to instant gratification and our emotions. Like we're so driven by our emotions to not feel uncomfortable that we want that instant gratification. But oftentimes, the coping strategies for that instant gratification can be not very positive for us. It can be binging social media, maybe drinking, maybe drugs, maybe sex, things that are just not going to lead us into an abundant harvest, but they're going to make us feel good in the moment. And so, learning the ways to process those emotions, to get comfortable in the uncomfortable, is a really powerful tip. And I love to teach natural bio distressing tapping, and I'm happy to share a link if you want to share it with your audience. But I think that is the number one tool by and large to process emotions because it processes such a wide range of emotions. It's not just good for if you have anger, it's not just good if you have fear. It really allows you to process any emotions that you feel at any time so that you can step away from some of those other instant gratification strategies that might be used in its place.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Tell us.
Yeah,
Is
it's a tutorial, it's a tapping, so it's using, and I think you're familiar with tapping, EFT. It combines EFT and TFT. And so you're using the meridians and certain points on your physical body that's connected to your nervous system and the meridian pathways. And it allows the body to really, truly release and process emotions. It also will clear those limiting beliefs that you were talking about earlier. And
perfect.
it can release phobias. It also can help treat trauma, clear trauma, so it's just a great all-around tool to use. Or even if you're craving food, you can use it and your craving will stop. It's really cool.
Beautiful. And what I like is the alternative because well, I'm not gonna talk about the whole universe, but especially I will say USA. There's pharmaceutical. I haven't met anyone that is having any kind of medication that doesn't have side effects. And
Hmm.
those side effects are horrible. Are the one is killing you. Is killing you. To see that you are using alternative medicine is beautiful. It's wonderful.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Follow the money. You have a very valid point. Always follow the money and you will see why, insurance doesn't cover services such as this that are alternative, because they're made in it if people aren't sick or not on a continual need to fill a prescription every month. Now, I am not completely anti-prescription either. Let me
Yeah.
say there's a place and a space for absolutely
Yes.
everything. It's just when it's dominant and by and large, you go to the doctor and you leave with a prescription and other things aren't explored or preventative measures aren't taken to retain your health rather than do something once you're so far ill that, you have to. That's what I disagree with. And I think you have a very valid point there. So, yeah, empowering yourself with these tools that will keep you well. They'll keep you well, guys, because it's not being stored in your physical body. And, there's a lot of research out there about how our emotions manifest into physical illness. And so it's really an important wellness practice to maintain your health rather than lose it and then try to get it back and heal through it. Trust me, I know I did it the hard way, guys. I did it the hard way, and I'm here to advocate for you to take a different approach.
But you know what? Because you took the highway, and me too. I did it just because of that. We went to the process, and because of that, we are where we are.
Absolutely.
So I believe that truthfully is not such thing as problems, but if we take a lesson from every circumstances that life is teaching us, you're talking about evolving, and that's the way I believe that we evolve when something present in our lives that is against what we want. But if we really pay attention, then we can hear the message of what we have to change, what we have to do, or we need to stop to do. What can I add, or what can I take off from my basket? And that everything is a lesson. If you see it that way, so you won't feel so much like a stress when
Yeah.
something is coming against. It look like it's against you, but not really. Not
Right.
really. It's
It's
just
for you. It's for you.
exactly.
Hmm.
It's called you for your attention to do something about it. So
Yeah.
how can people contact you? What is the best way to contact you?
People are welcome to jump on my website, www.fiercelyradiantsoul.com, and there's a 30-minute free discovery call. You can just connect with me and we can explore what will best meet you where you are. I have one-on-one individual services, I have groups, I have courses, I have online resources. There's something for everyone. So that is one way that you can certainly connect with me. You can connect with me on Facebook. You can connect with me on Instagram. So on Facebook, it is Janessa Finley Ford, and on Instagram, it's fiercely_radiant_soul, which is the name of my business. And then I also have an internet radio show, and it airs every Wednesday live at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And all of those episodes are available for replay on my website as well under Eyes Wide Open, which is the name of the radio show.
Oh, what a name! What's the name again?
Eyes Wide Open.
Eyes wide open. Yeah, I like that. I
Thank
really
you.
like it. Yes, and but I'm gonna try also to. No, no, I'm not gonna try. I'm gonna post all the links that you send me underneath of this video. So let me see. I think we covered everything with your amazing healing journey, your beginning, the middle, and the end. So, what is something that you would like to express to our audience today? What will be your
Mm.
last words?
So my last words are going to be about this idea of serving others. So we talked about earlier, right? Coming to relationships postured to give rather than receive. And I'm going to flip the script right now. And I'm going to say during times of adversity, during your winter seasons in life, one of the best ways to move through that season is to serve. But when you are in a place where you don't have the energy, you don't have the resources, your cup is empty. Sometimes serving looks like receiving. And if you think about for people who do serve and volunteer, if there wasn't someone there to receive, nobody would ever be able to serve. But so often we make these times of need when we do need the help or could use an extra hand, we make it mean something negative about us. We're not strong enough, we're not competent enough, we're not whatever, right? Like I could go on for quite some time about my own story and the meanings that I've made it about me in the past. But the truth is that people who are doing the serving, it actually reduces their blood pressure, it reduces their stress, and there's research to show it extends their life. And so if you are the one receiving, you're already giving the person who is doing the serving an enormous gift in their reduced stress, their reduced blood pressure, the extended life. Like you're welcome, right? And doesn't that feel good to know that you're giving someone else all of these wonderful things
You're
in
right.
their life? Like it feels so good to serve. But we always want to position ourselves because we're strong if we're the one doing the serving. So my closing sentiment is to just know where your glass is. If it's full, if it's empty, and if it is empty, it's okay to ask for help because it's the gift that keeps on giving to other people. And once you're out of your season of winter, because you're not going to be there forever, it just feels like it, but you're not going to be there forever, then you can pay it forward and serve others when they're in their time of need. And that allows the cycle, that allows us all to be stronger together. So that's my last thing. I'll wrap it up with that. And I hope that the next time any of you out there listening, you're like, oh, I could really use help right now, but I don't have it in me to ask someone. I hope you tether yourself to these words that it is going to help that person that you ask truly and sincerely. That's not a load of crap. You can research the research on it. It's out there.
You're absolutely right, and I thank you so much for those words because I remember I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't. I didn't know how to receive either until
Mhm.
somebody said, I think she offered me, and I said, "Well, no, no, thank you so much. No, thank you so much." And I think after a couple of times, she looked at me and she said, "If you don't accept my gift, you are you're you're stealing from me." I'm like, "Excuse me?" That's what she said. You're stealing from me. What am I stealing? My joy to give you? Like, really? So I think I worked on me, and the first time with this particular friend, it feels weird. It feels out of place. It feels uncomfortable. But then I realized at the end it was amazing. It was amazing. So you thank you for remind our audience that yes, it's good to call for help. It's good to receive, and everything is just like connected. That connection that we can have the serving. When I started, I was a volunteer and well, the prison, and but also I think one of the time that when I was serving, we used to go to Mexico, very teeny, mini houses. And I remember I went to a house and they didn't have anything. It was just one room. It was almost nothing. And I admire the flowers. It was a plant. I admire the plant because I wanted to admire somebody in the house. Um, Before we left the family, they have the plant in a plastic bag ready to go. And I felt so little because I was thinking these people, they don't have anything, but they are willing to give the little thing that they have. And when I back to the States, that taught me a huge lesson that I was going with intentions to serve and to give. But every time that I come back from Mexico, they were serving me in a way. I mean, I felt stronger. They gave me a lot of lessons, a lot of lessons. And you're right, to serve. There's time to serve. There is time to ask. There is time for everything. And recognizing those moments, it make you not to be an empty cup. Do you,
Hmm.
do you think?
Yeah, your testimony there, your story just really hits it right on the head of exactly what I was working to articulate is that, we have all of the seasons. So spring, you're going to blossom, harvest is going to come, the summer is going to be there too, and the winter, there is a time for everything. That's just very beautifully said. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a poem. You should write a poem about that. I really like it. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking with you, getting to know you, and we're gonna have your links in here. Um, well, this is the ending. So my name is Lilia again, your host, and thank you for listening. And if you have any question, any suggested topic, or want to order my books, you can do it through my website, liliaackermancoach.com, and just click the link below. And please don't forget to share, to like, to comment, and subscribe to the program, because this is the only way that this message, this very powerful message today that we heard from Janessa. By the way, you have a beautiful name. Beautiful. I really like it. It said it. So it helps us to continue rolling. You never know when somebody if is in a need to hear this message. So thank you from my heart. So see you next time. Until then, remember to forgive more and love more. And we're gonna stop that recording. Is last time I stopped the
It
recording
should be
and
at the
it
top of the
didn't.
screen.
I did stop recording. I'll probably get.